Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Hannah and today we are going to be talking about a book that I have a lot of mixed feelings about. And in this video I'm going to be discussing and reviewing Terciel and Elinor by Garth Nix. Yes, my dog once again got my brand new book. This is Garth Nix's newest release, and it is a return to the Old Kingdom world. So the first book in this series was written 25 years ago, and it was originally a trilogy, and this is kind of the author's return to this world, a continuation of the series. In this world, there's basically one continent that is bisected by a gigantic wall, and basically in the Old Kingdom to the north, where a good chunk of the story takes place, magic flourishes and thrives, and there are lots of monsters and dead creatures, and there is a person who holds the title of Abhorsen who is tasked with fighting monsters and putting down the dead. So there are evil necromancers that try to use necromancy to raise up dead spirits and have them do their bidding, and the Abhorsen is tasked with stopping them. And so in the first book, Sabriel, we are following the title character Sabriel as her father is kind of passing on the torch under some mysterious circumstances, and she is kind of off on an adventure to save him. She is from the south of the wall, which is called Ancestier, where magic does not work. She has been trained by her father, but in order to keep her safe, she grew up south of the wall where there aren't any monsters and magic doesn't really work. So that's the type of world we're in. So the first book is Sabriel, and then we have Lyriel and Abhorsen, and this trilogy is incredible. I freaking love them. They have such beautiful character arcs and moments, as well as great adventure to them. And then we got, many years later, we got Clariel. You see there's a big cover change. The vibe is way different. This is a prequel and follows a woman who does appear in the original trilogy as she was going through her life. And I also really enjoyed this book. I think I gave this book 4 stars. I thought this one was really well done, but it definitely has a different tone and a different vibe from the original trilogy, just because I think they were written so far apart. And then we get Golden Hand, which is a direct sequel to the last book in the trilogy and follows Lyriel as she is continuing on an adventure. And I honestly did not like this at all, and I was really not very impressed with the execution of this book. I thought this had a lot of pacing issues, and I did not like how we characterize some of the characters. So when I picked up Terciel and Elinor, which is the latest book in this series, I was kind of hesitant, nervous, excited, because this is one of my favorite series of all time. But was this going to be a return to the tone and the vibe of the original trilogy or not? And unfortunately, I don't think so. In this book specifically, we're following Terciel, who is Sabriel's father, so it is a direct prequel to Sabriel, and Elinor, who is Sabriel's mother, as they meet for the first time. And the main conflict of the story is there's an enemy of the Abhorsens who sets a trap for Terciel and uses Elinor as bait, and that's how the two characters meet, is during this like trap situation, and they kind of have a perilous time of it, and then they basically set out to finish off this bad guy, essentially. All right, I put the book up here so I can get on to all of my talking points. So I'm going to talk about the writing and the execution and how the world building was laid out in this book. I think it was really poorly done, and for new readers and old readers alike, the aspects of the world building that were reintroduced, so the things that old readers would already know about the old, from the old series that were brought back up, were really clumsily told. And there was some new information about how the magic system works, about how the world works, that I thought was interesting, but again, I don't think it was executed particularly well. It was kind of rushed in its telling. Like, the book is only 330 pages, and he basically re-established every single world building element that he'd already established in the original books. So I'm kind of left feeling like, who was this book written for then? Because he spent so much time doing all of that we got away from the main plot and the main story. The other thing with the execution is there were actually some instances of just bad craft and bad writing. For example, Elinor is a character who has no idea that magic exists at the beginning of the book. She was raised in isolation by her family, and they never told her that she had magical abilities. But there is an instance where it is from Elinor's perspective, but she's thinking about magic, which she has no idea about. So how can she know about the magic system, and in her perspective is explaining the magic system to the reader when she herself does not know about it? And so that was just like straight up a mistake in the writing and the crafting of this book. And it happened several times throughout the book. It wasn't just like that one example. There were just some instances where the perspective, like one character would know something when they shouldn't. A big issue that I had with my overall enjoyment of the story was the pacing was way off. The main plot, the plot that I described to you, where they're trying to go after the big bad, doesn't happen until 75% into the book. The first 75% of the book is all world building, establishing the characters and kind of setting them up, and then they go on the adventure. And honestly, the first 25% of the book I thought could have been cut. It was so boring and so slow paced. And again, he only had 330 pages to execute this novel, and it just felt like he had the main points of the plot kind of plotted out, but they just seemed like they were not where they should be. One thing that I did enjoy about like the world building was we had a few cameos from older characters that I did enjoy seeing. Some side characters from the original trilogy that kind of popped back up, I thought were fun. One exception to this is Mogget. Mogget is one of my favorite characters from the original trilogy. He's the cat. He's the cat on the cover, and I didn't like his characterization, and he didn't really play a role in the story at all, which to me was just something that was disappointing. Next, I'm going to be talking about the romance, and I actually enjoyed the romance in this book and how it was handled. So obviously, this is about Terciel and Elinor, and we know that they are in a relationship and they have Sabriel. Sabriel is their daughter. So we know that these two characters are already going to get together. But what I appreciated about this was that it was handled, like we knew that what was going to happen, but the way that it was handled, I really appreciated it. So for the most part, the characters they meet in the beginning of the book and then they are separated. And so once they're separated, they kind of think about each other and they think, well, that person was really attractive, and they really intrigue me. I want to get to know them more. And then when they come back together to go on the adventure to go after the big bad guy, they have a conversation and they have a meetup and they say, hey, we might die, and I'm really attracted to you. So since we might die tomorrow, let's go to bed together. And honestly, I really appreciated that, because in so many young adult books, the characters are just we're in love with each other, and they get distracted by the romantic connection that they have. And I'm like, there's a big bad. You're supposed to be going on this adventure or fighting a great evil, and yet you guys are so focused on the romance. And I thought that that was something that I don't see very often in YA is, you know, hey, we're gonna die, let's take advantage of the situation. And, you know, we acknowledge that we're attracted to each other, but we don't know each other very well. And so I actually really enjoyed that. And then in the epilogue, which is, you know, a little bit later after the events of the main plot unfold, is when we see them actually in a relationship. And so I thought that was unique. I thought that was really well done, and I really appreciated that bit. I'm going to be talking about the characters now. This is a dual point of view book, so we get Terciel's perspective and Elinor's perspective back and forth each chapter. And again, my issue with that is one character always feels more important, or like the author spent more time with them than the other, and that is no exception here. I enjoyed Elinor's perspective way more than Terciel. Elinor had way more characterization than Terciel, and neither character really had much character development, which is a problem, but I think of the two, Elinor had a little bit more. Elinor is a really cool character, but she falls into the trap of, she learns about, like, she's never been exposed to magic before. And then once she learns that she's a magic user, she immediately conquers and becomes like a master magician in like a second. So that's just like a trope that really bothers me. And again, it's kind of an execution error in my opinion. Terciel was super bland and really two-dimensional. Like I said, he didn't really have much, if any, character development at all. And we don't get to see him a lot in Sabriel. He's kind of a distant character, but he felt like two different people. Obviously, he's young in this book, but in Sabriel, he's probably in his 50s. But like, it still felt like two different characters, and I didn't feel like there was any attention to detail to who he was in Sabriel to his characterization in this book. I just didn't feel like they were the same people. And again, Mogget as a character really disappointed me in this book. In Sabriel, he is a key player in that book, and here he was just really pushed to the side, which is just a personal preference of mine. I just really like Mogget as a character and wish I had more of him. Another thing I want to say, that the villain is the villain from the previous trilogy. So didn't really appreciate that. It's like he couldn't come up with anything new, so he just recycled a villain. Okay, this is like a nitpicky thing, but it bothered me so freaking much. So let me explain. Elinor is a play actor, okay? So she grew up memorizing plays and putting on performances of plays at her home. Okay, so she is a tumbler, she's a juggler, she's a performer, essentially. So her favorite playwright in this world is named Breakspear. Are you kidding me? That is such a lazy and stupid real world reference to Shakespeare. I thought it really pulled me out of the story, first of all. And second of all, I thought that it was just incredibly lazy to take William Shakespeare's name and change it a little bit. Oh, that's the famous playwright in my world. No, just absolutely not. All right, let me get into some overall thoughts. So I have never wanted to write fan fiction before, but I'm tempted to rewrite this book and take my own spin on it, and I don't write fan fiction. There were elements of this book that I enjoyed, and I think, overall have a good time. And so I gave this book 3 stars out of 5. But I'm left feeling really unsatisfied and quite disappointed with the execution of this story in this world. I'm trying to not be mean, but I'm left feeling like, who is this for? Who is the audience for this book? Because obviously the original trilogy came out like 25 years ago. So is this new book for new readers to get them excited about your old world, or is this for your existing fans? Because if it's for your existing fans, I don't think you hit the mark. And if it's for your new fans, again, I don't know if you did a good job like piquing their interest in any way. So I'm just left feeling like confused and not sure who would enjoy this book. That sounds really harsh, but it's true. I still enjoy young adult here and there as a 27-year-old, but I just appreciate a lot more finesse in my YA. And to be honest, this just felt really slapped together. Again, I feel bad saying that, but that's just how I feel about this book. For the most part, this felt like a lot of recycling. He took a couple of new characters, old characters, and kind of mashed it together and just, here you go. Like, that's how it felt. Very mediocre. I don't know. I honestly do not recommend this book for new readers and old readers alike to the Old Kingdom series. I still really recommend the original trilogy. Sabriel, Lyriel, Abhorsen, I still scream about all the time. I think these books are fantastic. And even Clariel, which is the prequel, the first prequel, I think is also really well done. But this book, Terciel and Elinor, is just completely different in tone and vibe, and I just don't even think it was executed very well. So feeling very middling, having a lot of conflicting thoughts and feelings about this book. So anyway, those are all the points that I had to make about this, and I just had to kind of get it off my chest. And I'm gonna go. Thank you so much for watching this review, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye everyone.